Unconventional Royals, a look at history's most eccentric monarchs. Royalty exists in almost every culture around the world, often centered around the notion that one person deserves to be at the top of the social hierarchy. However, not all royal families have been conventional. In fact, many have been downright bizarre. From deformed hunchback to crazed witches, and even murderous families, the history of monarchy is filled with unusual rulers who were far from what we would expect. Despite the glamorous image of royalty, many rulers exhibited strange quirks or serious mental health issues that impacted their ability to govern. Access to immense wealth and power can also corrupt even the most well-intentioned rulers, leaving them with warped priorities. Join us as we explore the weirdest royals and strangest royal families throughout history, their quirks and struggles, and the impact they had on the countries they ruled. So sit back and learn about the bizarre side of royalty without ever having to bow or curtsy. Maria Eleonora of Brandenburg. Royal title, Queen of Sweden. Maria Eleonora, like many women of her time, was determined to produce a male heir for her husband, King Gustavus Adolphus. When she gave birth to a daughter, Christina, in 1626, Maria Eleonora's disappointment quickly turned to madness. She rejected the infant, calling her a monster, and reportedly attempting to kill her on multiple occasions. Maria Eleonora's mental state deteriorated further after the king's death. She refused to bury his body for over a year, and even slept beneath a casket containing his heart. Maria Eleonora's obsession with producing a male heir and her descent into insanity are a tragic example of the pressures placed on women in positions of power in the past. Elagabalus, royal title, Emperor of Rome. Elagabalus, a Roman emperor who ascended to the throne in 218 AD, was notorious for his extreme and sadistic behavior. He engaged in a variety of bizarre and gruesome activities that shocked even the most ruthless rulers of his time. Some of Elagabalus's most disturbing actions include chaining naked women to chariots and whipping them like horses, releasing poisonous snakes into gladiator games to watch crowds panic and die, tying dinner guests to a water wheel to drown them slowly, and tossing gold and silver from a tower to incite fights and deaths among commoners. He also let loose lions and leopards during a feast in bizarrely filled positions in his government based on the sizes of men's genitals. When his advisor cautioned him about the potential backlash from excessive taxation, Elagabalus responded by murdering him. Elagabalus's perverse and sadistic actions serve as a chilling reminder of the length some rulers will go to indulge their darkest desires. Nero, royal title, Emperor of Rome. Nero, the infamous Roman emperor who ruled from 54 to 68 AD, was a narcissistic and sadistic ruler who inherited his Machiavellian tendencies from his mother. Agrippina orchestrated Nero's rise to power by poisoning her husband, Emperor Claudius, and persuading him to name Nero as his successor. Once in power, Nero followed his mother's example and eliminated anyone who opposed him, including Agrippina herself and his own wife Octavia. Despite introducing some positive social and political reforms, Nero's hedonistic lifestyle led him down a path of excess and cruelty. He had multiple wives and lovers, spent vast sums on personal pleasures, and executed anyone who dared criticize him. In 64 AD, a devastating fire ravaged Rome, destroying 75% of the city. Many believe Nero had started the fire to clear the way for a new castle, and he did nothing to stop it. Instead, he blamed Christians and initiated a period of persecution and torture against them. Nero also engaged in bizarre behavior, such as marrying a man who resembled his Princess Alexandra of Bavaria. Royal title, Princess of Bavaria. Princess Alexandra of Bavaria was born in Munich, Germany in 1826. She had a unique belief that she swallowed a whole glass grand piano during her childhood, leading her to believe that any sudden movement could break the instrument inside her. This delusion caused her to walk sideways through doorways and corridors to avoid breaking the piano. Charles VI of France. Royal title, King of France. Charles VI, King of France, also known as Charles the Mad, was the King of France from 1380 until his death in 1422. He was plagued by bouts of insanity throughout his life. His paranoid behavior and violent rages made him a danger to those around him and often had to be restrained. One of his most infamous quirks was his belief that his body was made of glass, a condition known as the glass delusion. This delusion caused radical changes in his behavior, as he would refuse to move or engage in physical activity for fear of shattering his fragile body. Despite his struggles with mental illness, Charles was known as an accomplished athlete during his lucid moments. Peter III of Russia. Royal title, Tsar of Russia. Peter III was born in 1728, and he is Catherine the Great's husband. He was not cut out for royal life. His time as Emperor of Russia was marked by a lack of interest in ruling and an unhealthy obsession with playing toy soldiers in bed. His marriage to Catherine was equally rocky, with the couple having a strained relationship from the start. Peter's childish behavior extended to their sex life, with him more interested in military drills and dressing up in military gear than consummating their relationship. He was also known for his mean-spirited behavior, including calling Catherine a stupid whore at a banquet. Ivan the Terrible, royal title, Tsar of Russia. Ivan IV, also known as Ivan the Terrible, was Grand Prince of Moscow. He was the first Tsar of a centralized Russia from 1533 to 1547, and known for his wild rages from a young age. He faced constant threats to his throne and expanded his kingdom outwards, seizing land and taking down anyone in his way. After the death of his wife, Ivan sank into a depression that led to a 24-year reign of terror. He murdered any noble who spoke against him, beat his daughter-in-law so badly she miscarried, and even killed his own son in one of his rages. His cruelty and paranoia knew no bounds, as he was said to have blinded the architect of St. Basil's Cathedral to prevent him from creating another building as beautiful. The Tsar's reign of terror left most of those around him executed and cemented his place as one of history's most ruthless leaders. Sado, royal title, Crown Prince of Korea. Sado, the ill-fated son of King Yongjo of Korea, suffered a lifetime of torment and despair at the hands of his abusive father. Born in 1735, Sado's mental health began to deteriorate at a young age due to his father's brutal treatment. Obsessed with impressing his father, Sado spiraled into a world of perversion and violence, indulging in illegal activities and sending dead bodies out of the palace daily. His father's suspicions about his son's behavior eventually led him to lock Sado in a chest, where he died of starvation after 8 days. Joanna of Castile, royal title, the Queen of Castile and Aragon in Spain. Joanna of Castile, also known as Joanna the Mad, was born in 1479 and was the third child of Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile. After the death of her husband, Joanna of Castile's devotion to him took a dark turn. Her love for Philip I of Burgundy became an obsession that led her to keep his dead, embalmed body with her at all times. This bizarre behavior earned her the nickname Joanna la Loca. Despite being a queen, Joanna's family saw her as unfit to rule, and her son Charles became the regent of the country. Even though she gave birth to 6 children, all of whom became emperors or queens, Joanna's legacy is forever marred by her strange attachment to her deceased husband. Caligula, royal title, Emperor of Rome. Caligula, born Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, was a Roman emperor who ruled from 37 AD to 41 AD. Caligula's ascent to the throne of Rome was riddled with danger and treachery. Adopted by his great-uncle Tiberius, he eventually became Emperor of Rome after eliminating his potential rivals. However, as Caligula's reign progressed, his behavior became increasingly tyrannical and bizarre. He began to execute anyone who opposed him and declared himself a living god, even replacing the heads of statues of deities with his own likeness. He also alleged incest with his sisters and indulged in many other sexual exploits. Eventually, Caligula's outrageous actions led to his downfall when a group of guards assassinated him. Ibrahim I, royal title, Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. Ibrahim I, who became Sultan of the Ottoman Empire in 1640 after his brother's death, was known for his poor leadership skills. His depression over his brother's death led him to focus on the pleasures of his harem, which included 280 concubines. His mother took advantage of his inattention and ruled in his place until he banished her. Legend has it that Ibrahim's most infamous act of madness was ordering the drowning deaths of his entire harem. However, his lavish lifestyle eventually led to his downfall, as he imposed high taxes on his people to fund his own luxuries. Eventually, his subjects imprisoned him and installed his young son as sultan, with the support of his mother. Ibrahim was later strangled to death by his former executioners. Eric XIV of Sweden, royal title, King of Sweden. Eric XIV ascended to the throne in 1560. He was a capable and charming king of Sweden until paranoia consumed him. He fought for control with his brother, and spent a significant portion of his early reign in that battle. However, as time went on, Eric's mind began to fade. He displayed symptoms of schizophrenia, including vicious mood swings and impulsive behavior. Eric sentenced guards to death for irritating him and executed people for whispering or giggling in his presence. Justin II, royal title, Emperor of Byzantium. During his reign from 565 to 575 AD, Justin II, the Byzantine emperor, displayed bizarre and erratic behavior, leading those around him to question his sanity. He had a tendency to attempt to bite his courtiers and demanded constant organ music to calm his nerves. His advisors attempted to distract him by moving him around the castle in a wagon with a throne attached, and had to restrain him during violent outbursts. To prevent him from jumping out of windows, bars were installed, Justin would laugh, cry, make animal noises, and lash out without reason, leading some to believe that he was possessed by the devil. Empress Sophia cared for him during his illness and made important decisions on his behalf. Christian VII of Denmark, royal title, King of Denmark. In 1766, Christian VII of Denmark became king at age 16, and seemed to never act a day older for the rest of his life. According to his doctors, his frequent masturbation bordered on unhealthy. He played pranks on his grandmother, putting pins in her throne and throwing things at her. He ran wild through the streets with his friends and his mistress, destroying shops and patronizing brothels. He built his own torture rack and had himself tied to it and flogged. As he regressed further and further, his devious doctor, Johann Friedrich Struensee, saw a chance to swoop in and gain power. Struensee had himself appointed to Christian's cabinet and seduced Christian's wife. Struensee maintained his spot as de facto ruler until Christian's equally manipulative stepmother persuaded a very weak-minded Christian to have Struensee and the queen arrested for their affair. Zenda, royal title, Ming Dynasty Emperor. Zenda, born Zhu Hozhao, was the emperor of the Ming Dynasty who ruled from 1505 to 1521. When Zhu Hozhao became the emperor of the Ming Dynasty at the age of 14, he took the name of Zhengde. However, he remained a teenager at heart and never quite grew into his role as emperor. He installed eunuchs in all positions of power, letting them run the government while he indulged in his favorite pursuits. Mustafa I, royal title, Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. Mustafa I had an unusual childhood, to say the least. When his brother Ahmed I took the throne of the Ottoman Empire in 1603, Ottoman tradition dictated that he execute his brother to prevent him from attempting to supplant him. However, 13-year-old Ahmed spared the life of his 12-year-old brother and instead held him captive in a windowless prison known as the Cage. Qin Shi Huang, royal title, Qin Dynasty Emperor. Qin Shi Huang, born Zhao Zheng in 259 BC, was one of China's most influential rulers. Known for unifying the country into one centralized state, however, his rule was marred by a number of bizarre and cruel practices. He had his mother's lover killed to secure his position as king, and he burned books and buried intellectuals alive in his quest for power. Toward the end of his life, he became obsessed with immortality and sent expeditions throughout China to find ways to achieve it. He even had his own tomb constructed with an army of terracotta warriors and his concubines. Nebuchadnezzar/Nebonitis. Royal title, King of Babylon. According to the Book of Daniel in the Christian Bible, a Babylonian king spent 7 years living like an animal in the forest due to a spell of madness. While the story has long been associated with Nebuchadnezzar, recent scholars suggest it may have actually been Nebonitis, another king of Babylon. Regardless of the exact identity, the tale remains a haunting example of the unpredictable nature of mental illness in royalty. Vlad the Impaler. Royal title, Prince of Wallachia. Vlad III, born in 1431, was Prince of Wallachia, which is now part of the modern-day Romania. He was the son of Vlad II, who became a member of the Order of the Dragon, a group dedicated to fighting against the Ottoman Empire. Vlad III earned the nickname Dracula, which means Son of the Dragon, after his father. Vlad III spent his childhood in captivity after being taken by the Turks along with his brother. When he returned home, he found a usurper on his father's throne and set out to reclaim his power. However, he did so in a particularly gruesome manner. He invited hundreds of noblemen to his palace for dinner, only to have them stabbed and impaled on stakes. He also impaled merchants and prisoners of war, among others. One particularly notorious instance involved Ottoman envoys who refused to remove their turbans. Peter the Great, royal title, Tsar of Russia. Peter the Great, born in 1672, was one of the most important rulers in Russian history. Tsar Peter I of Russia, also known as Peter the Great, is celebrated for modernizing Russia, but he was known to be insensitive to others, including his own people. While staying at the home of diarist John Evelyn in Thames, Peter turned the palace into his court and palace, and his entourage reportedly trashed the place. In addition to his erratic behavior, Peter also implemented a beard tax in an attempt to westernize Russia. He personally shaved the faces of members of his staff and the Russian military, and demanded that the country follow suit, despite the Russian Orthodox Church's belief that a bare face was blasphemous. George III of the United Kingdom, royal title, King of Great Britain and Ireland. George III was one of the most well-known monarchs of England, reigning during the time of the American Revolution. He ascended the throne in 1760 and soon after imposed the Stamp Act in America, one of the laws that helped fuel the revolution. Unfortunately, during his reign, George suffered from several bouts of madness. He was restrained in a straitjacket during one of these episodes, and his mental health struggles continued to worsen throughout his life. In 1804 and 1810, he experienced additional bouts of insanity that severely impacted his reign. Ludwig II of Bavaria. King Ludwig II of Bavaria, born in 1845, is known for his eccentricities and his love of building lavish and fantastical castles. He spent his childhood in isolation and became king at 18 without any training or experience. Ludwig retreated to his castles and fully invested himself in his fantasy world, hiring set designers instead of architects to create his castles. He even imagined himself as Parzival, a medieval figure associated with the Holy Grail. Ludwig's obsession with his castles led to financial troubles, and when banks threatened to seize his property, the government declared him insane and deposed him. The day after he was in prison, he was found dead under mysterious circumstances, along with a psychiatrist who declared him mad. Today, his castles, including Neuschwanstein, continue to be popular tourist attractions in Germany. Conclusion. In the past, the standards from what was considered normal for royals were quite different than what they are today. Although not all royals were as eccentric as some we've discussed earlier, they all had their own unique qualities that set them apart from other members of royal families. Regardless of their quirks, being royalty never loses its allure, and if you're searching for unconventional figures to admire, these individuals should be at the top of your list.